Okay, guys, my name is Arunoda and I'm from site. So basically, I'm working with Next.js most of the time. So that's my full-time job is mostly working on Next and make it great. So if you don't know me, like this is me actually. I work a lot with Storybook, React Storybook, and then earlier than that, I work with Meteor. I did a lot of projects with Meteor, like from the a lot of projects, ton of them. And then after I created Storybook with my friends at our previous company, and I did some stuff, and so then I came to the Next.js, and I really like it, and then I started working on that. So then eventually I became a member of site, so because of Next.js. All right. And then how many of you guys actually have used Next.js or have it tried? Right, then I don't need to explain a lot of things about Next in this slide, okay? So basically Next is something like PHP, so earlier, so it's not like PHP, like, okay, it's not PHP. So what we try to do is PHP, like we can create files and it just works. So that's the concept we try to bring. And we have like a folder, like, I think you can't see that. There's a folder called pages, and then we put like a React component into that, and that component became a URL. So you can see here we exported a simple React component, and it's your page. And actually, the Create React app also do something similar. It's not like that, but they also make creating React app simple. But we want to provide a way to extend your app. So we support configuring your Babel RC file, and also you could configure your Webpack config and do some other stuff. So we want to make it simple, as well as you could able to configure as you want. So that's the whole goal of Next.js, and also one of the other thing is providing server-side rendering. So server-side rendering is not what we do only for the SEO, because now Google does JavaScript parsing, so it doesn't need to do SEO for the server-side rendering. But we do SEO for the server-side rendering for the very fast apps. So you could have a very fast rendering app. So that's the reason we do server-side rendering. Right, so Next.js 2.0, we released I think around 1 month ago. One of the things we did Next.js 2.0 is production quality. So we released Next, I guess, maybe 6-8 months ago, I guess. So it was not for the production purpose. And then we worked almost for around 6 months to make it production ready. We fixed a lot of bugs. And then, another feature was like custom routing support. So we need to have dynamic reports in dynamic routes. In the early Next.js version, we don't have to create dynamic route. It's really bad, but we have no way to do that. Then we came up with a new nice API, because you could actually use Express, Happy, or any server-side router you use, and then you could create routes in a Next.js app, and they work with client-side, and they work with server-side rendering, and everything is working for you. And you just need to create something like this, and you don't need to learn about this right now, but you could see we can use Express or anything you need. And then we do some pre-fetching support. So we have pages, and then you don't need to download it when you click on them, so it's already there. So it's just works. And we try to use service workers for this, and that's the normal way how people do that. But we find out it's not that optimal, because service workers has some bugs. Maybe we are using it wrongly. So we back to normal HTTP fetching, and it worked really well for us. So now we have pre-fetching with 2.0. So we released this about 1 month ago, I guess. And then beyond 2.0, this is the stuff I'm going to talk about right now. So we want to make apps faster and faster and faster. That's the main goal of Next.js beyond 2.0. And we won't be having a huge 3.0 release. What we're going to have is we have 2.x releases with different features. So that's the whole idea. So now if we talk about fast web application, we can think about 3 things. Number 1 is page load speed. Another thing is dev time performance. If your app is very fast in the page load in the browser, but if you need to do some changes, and it will take around 30 minutes, so that's not going to work, because you have to do a lot of iterations. That's not going to work. and then build speed. So if everything is good, but if you need to build your application to production, let's say it takes 1 or 2 hours, so it doesn't make sense at all. So that's the areas we need to improve. The first thing is page load speed. So earlier in the Next.js 2.0, so we have a place, I think you can see this. We have an area, it's actually, I can show you the code. Right, okay. So basically we have a lot of HTML here. So this is CSS, don't worry about it. This is HTML, this is a kind of huge page. And then we have a lot of code here, so normal JavaScript code, because we embed JavaScript code into the HTML. It's really bad, but we did that. But then we want to improve that. So so this is the way we do right now. So we have the normal CSS, okay, and HTML here. And now we only have the data here. So only the data to boot the React in the client side, and that's it. So we no longer have any inline JavaScript here. So it's worked pretty well. So it's very fast to render on the page on the browser, and it works really well. And then I'm going back to the presentation. All right. So, and we have all the scripts are async scripts. So the browser doesn't need to wait for the JavaScript to render or download. So when the browser passes the page, actually it gets rendered, and there is no need to wait for the JavaScript. And also JavaScript are preloaded. So how many guys heard about this link preload support? Okay, cool. So that's a new standard coming with HTML. So basically you could preload some JavaScript images or whatever CSS things, and you don't need to wait for the browser to load them, because it's not executing the script, but it's downloading the script on the behind the scene. So we in the first few bytes actually, so we are asking browser to download the scripts, and then when the page passes the HTML, and when it's time to like download the JavaScript, with the file is there, so it can render the page. So basically what we're trying to do is, so we have the HTML page, and you could see the content, and as well as you could interact with the content, because we use dynamic JavaScript and do the changes. That's the whole goal of link preload. So we have this automatically. And another cool thing is, it's not a cool thing. So we do support the code splitting, but the problem was like the code splitting was not working pretty well. So I could show you. So this is our this is our sites, site.co earlier. So you could see here we have like scripts around like 1 MB. So these are individual pages. It took around 1 MB, 1.1 MB. You could see like that. But it's not ideal, right? Because we are trying to include everything in the every page. But we did some optimization. So now it looks like this. Right? Okay. So I could zoom in. Right, you could see. Now it's very small, like around 100 kilobytes, 120. So the reason for this is very interesting. So we actually have this earlier. So in order the command chunk to move into the command module to move into command chunks, that module need to be used in every page in your app. But in an ideal world, that's not going to work, right? Because we're not going to use each and every module in every page. So we use this magic number 0.5. So if the is any module going to use in at least half of your pages, then move into command chunks. And that number is very arbitrary, but it works really well. So we don't even have a way to configure this number, because I don't think you don't need to do that, because it just work. Right. Right. Okay. Okay. All these features came in 2.2.0, and it's available on the NPM right now. So if you're using this right now, these features are there. So it's available automatically. Okay, another thing is dev time performance. Actually, we did some changes to the dev time performance in Next.js in 2.0. The thing is, if you have in site.co, we have around like 150 pages. Okay, then it will take a lot forever to do build time, and if we change something, it will take around like 2-3 minutes to render again. So what we did was actually we only actually build the page you're working on. So it doesn't matter if you have 1,000 pages. We actually work on only 1 or 2 pages. So that's a one optimization we did. And now we also, our goal is to do some optimization, like if you just hit some keystroke, then it will work on the browser. So that's the goal. And we have some plans to do that. I think we will do it. Another thing is build speed. So if you have more pages, and with the help of UgliPy.js, it will take around 5 minutes to build your app in production. So that's something you can't avoid. So we have some ways to like cache the build process. So if you're doing incremental builds, so we try to cache the stuff and reduce that time. Right. And we want to like add some new features to the next version of Next.js. That's one of the features that we are looking at, dynamic imports. So basically, how many guys heard about these dynamic imports? So that's not the thing we invented actually. So that's something available with Webpack and other places. So it's a standard from TC39. I think they are kind of accepting it right now. So basically what's happening is, so there's a import function here. So it's a function, right? So normally on the first line, it's a statement. Here is a function returning a like promise. So what we're trying to do is like we can actually with dynamic imports. So you could load your module in a client side in a asynchronous way. So you don't need to include that into your main bundle. So that will speed your application and make your main bundle to be smaller. So that's something we are trying to support. And actually, in addition to that, actually, we support SSR as well for this one, because in the server side, we also render this one. But you might have a question why we need to do asynchronous loading and then do SSR rendering. So I'll show you in a bit why that's pretty important. And if you don't need SSR, actually, you could turn it off. And so it's not something you don't need to use all our dynamic this dynamic API. So basically, this works with any third party like tool support dynamic imports. So there's a project called Async Reactor. So you could use it with the Next.js, our dynamic import system. So it does work because we try to go with the standards. So we try not to do anything specific to Next.js. So I'll show you some simple demo, right? So this is meant to be a chat application, but it's not a chat because you can type stuff, but it doesn't work because it's not a chat. But I'm trying to like emulate a chat application. So basically, I can reload it because it has new content. But I think you can't guess anything with this because just a few text and like that. So I'll show you the code. Here we have the data file. Can you guys see this? Like, okay, barely. So basically, it's a type of messages in your box. We have a text message, and we have a image. We have some code, and maybe in a real app there might be different types. If you look at the code, so we have different like components here. We have message component, we have code block, image, and in a real app we might have 1,000 components like this. Okay. Now we are trying to list all them here, but then so currently in this page we are only showing 2 of those components. Now we try to get this component from here. So get component by looking at this item, and we iterate the data and we try to render them. So at one time we only use 2 of these components. So it doesn't matter your application has 1,000 components for this one, but actually using only 2. So we try to do it because you don't need to load 1,000 components at once, but only the components you need. And the cool thing with Next.js is actually all those things are server-side rendered. So if you look at the source code, so you can see all the text here as well, right? So it's one of the cool features because now there are asynchronous components, and also you could actually do server-side rendering. Right. So basically, I can show you that. So this is our server-side rendering, and if you load it client-side, that works as well. So I can search for chunks here. Okay. And let's say I'm going to another page. I reload it, and then going back. And you can see now I used only one component here, only the text one, and it's downloaded. So it's work on the server side and as well as on the client side. So that's really great. So with this, actually, you could actually create your own routing system on using dynamic components, dynamic imports. So that's the goal, because you can see you could build something like React router. So maybe the React router on top of Next.js, and you could completely ignore our routing system. So that's simply going to work, because you could have like it's like beyond code splitting. So you could split your code in a way you guys like. So that's the whole purpose of dynamic imports with server-side rendering. Right. Okay, that's it. And we are going to support offline support as well. That's one of the features we need to at our site.co, because we need to have our documentation to be available offline. So even though now it's a cloud service, we want our documentation to be available offline. Right. So we are going to use service workers for that. And we are going to use our link prepackaging solution as an API and very simple integration. So it really looks like this. You import Next offline, and we have link prefetch. So that's all you have to do. So you might have some other API changes, but this is the core. And we will have better testing support, because testing means we can do like unit testing, anything at this stage, because we could use Jest or Mocha, anything you like. But we're trying to give some more tools to do end-to-end testing, integration testing. That's the whole purpose. Actually, we have all this tooling for Next.js itself. With 2.0, our goal was to have like good testing coverage. It's not exactly the code coverage. We try to do a lot of integration testing, because that's the key part of because you need to test your application in the real world, how that works. So we did some tooling. So now we want to export it as a new package called Next Test. Actually, it's not available yet. That's something like this. Oh, right. Oh, sorry. So we have like we can import some code. We can start Next server, Next application on our code, and you can write some test cases on the using Jest or whatever. So like that. But I'm gonna explain you. Not gonna explain everything, but I'll show you. So we have all this in Next.js. I'll try to run a demo of how it gonna works. Right. So basically, it will start locally. It will start like a Chrome driver, and you don't need to do any configuration. It will start a Chrome driver and try to start browsers and do all the testing. So give me a couple of seconds to compile some of the pages. Right, you can see here we create new browsers automatically, and it will do the testing. So that's how it works on locally. And if you use CSV like Circle CI or something else, so it will work there as well. So that's the whole goal. So right, let me close this. Right. So other than that, we were going to do static export support, and there's an existing PR for that. I'm going to work through with that like in the next couple of weeks, or maybe next week, and trying to get that. So that's one of the most like requested feature. So we need to do that. So other thing is learn Next.js. So Next.js is already very simple, but you might need some help to get started with that. So I created this learnnextjs.com. So basically, it's a kind of like an online course plus some documentation thing. You could learn concept like very progressive manner. So that's a really good way to learn stuff. Actually, I actually created something similar for GraphQL called Learn GraphQL, and for the Meteor called Bulletproof Meteor. So we use the same concept here, and it works really well. And I really ask you guys to go learnnextjs.com and try to go through that. And if you go to that, and don't just believe me, just look at some reviews and people like it really, really well. So that's the stuff you can do. All right. Okay. That's the stuff I have for the Next.js, like this presentation. And if you have any questions, let's talk in the GitHub and let's have a chat. And I like Slack, but I really like GitHub over that, because Slack chats are going to like disappear sometimes. So it's really hard to manage. So always use GitHub. So that's it for my talk. Any questions? Like. Right. I guess there's no questions, and I think you could actually ask from here. Like, then we can chat. Okay. Thank you.